Hi, I'm Sarah Hagigi.
And I'm Erin Vabornik.
Welcome to COABE's Adult Ed Advocast.
The Advocast is a partner podcast of COABE State Advocate for Adult Education Fellowship.
Each episode highlights challenges and successes in advocacy.
We also highlight a new student story.
We're glad you're here.
Now let's get started. Welcome to the Advocast.
Welcome and Happy New Year, everyone. I hope you had a great time spending the holiday season with your loved ones and got enough time to rest and decompress during this time and started your new semesters energetic and happy. How are you, Erin?
I am doing pretty well. I'm gearing up for hopefully a year full of advocacy. How about you?
Wow, that's exciting. Well, same here. Actually, we started yesterday. It was the community college at the legislator event in Phoenix, Arizona, the capital city of Arizona, that we went to the state capitol and we met with some legislators. There were booths of different community colleges from all around Arizona there, and Pima Community College, the college that I work at, had a booth there too. We had some of our students coming in. One of our students was one of our adult education students. I just want to give a shout out to TT Martinez. She did an amazing job of explaining why she needed to come to adult ed program and why it is important for adult ed programs to exist and how she benefited and how they changed their mindset. And we made good connections with the new legislators. It was amazing.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Do you have a lot of new legislators you have to reach out to?
We do. And we have a lot of updating behind the scenes that we need to do because now we have new staffers, new legislators, and we have to update our lists behind the scenes. Just if anybody is new to the advocacy work, this is something you need to do after every election.
Yes. I just met with the legislator this morning, and we were talking about how he's kind of been shifted to different committees. And so he reminded me that it's really important to not only reach out to those new legislators, but to also look at who's shifted on the committees that are important to our mission.
Good
And how to stay connected to that. So just to highlight, legislators can really help educate us on how to better connect with them.
That is true. That
Yes.
is true. Yeah.
And
Amazing.
speaking of advocacy, because I think we were both really interested in advocacy before the State Advocate for Adult Education Fellowship, but that brought us together and it really helped to boost our advocacy. And today we're really excited to have a SAAEF Fellow from Cohort 2, which anytime I talk to people from COABE, they're always saying, Cohort 2, my goodness, they did so much. It's incredible. So we're really, really excited to have Karina Ravkina-Matousov with us from California, and we'll be joined later by one of her students, Brandy Martinez. So
how exciting. Let's bring on Karina.
All right, here she comes. Welcome, Karina.
Hi, ladies. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Advocast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So we'd like to start and just have you introduce yourself and how did you come to advocacy?
I'm Karina Ravkina. I am a fellow of the second cohort, and I found out about it really by accident. I subscribed to many notifications from different organizations, and I received something and something clicked, and I actually read through it. But because, to be honest, we get so many emails these days that there's no way to read them all. But I saw this and it spoke to me in a way because I thought that I could finally apply skills that I have not publicly advertised to this. And so I figured, I take this opportunity. I applied and I got in. It was kind of shocking because I've never done anything like this. Knew very little about working with legislators, to be honest, had no idea of the flow chart or the organizational system, but I definitely learned about it in this cohort. And I am currently an assistant principal, but when I started with the program, I was an advisor. So through that process, a lot of changes happened.
Mhm.
This is so exciting and very important to know because people usually get intimidated by the word advocacy and they think that they don't know anything about advocacy and how to talk to legislators. They might not be familiar with a lot of um, bills and causes that they need to fight for, and they usually are hesitant to apply for the safe position. But this is a good point that you will learn in this fellowship. You just need to have the passion, all the tools to um, make you an advocate, strong advocate are there, and then there will be help to guide you through the whole process. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
What made you become interested in advocacy?
So I, of course, think that adult education is very important. I work in it. But on a personal level, I took advantage of adult education when I was a teen. And, everyone has a story, and I'm sure that mine is not super special, but I think a lot of people can resonate with it. I was not a great student. I fell behind. I had to work to, I don't want to say support my family, but to support myself in a sense, to have lunch money, to pay for gas or a bus pass or whatever I had at that moment. And I realized on the first day of senior year that I was a junior, that I was a full year behind because I'd missed so much. And I went to my counselor and learned about adult school classes, which thankfully at that time were on our high school campus. And it was incredible. I had to walk 200 feet and I was in a completely different world with teachers that were there to guide you through any academic subject, whether it was reading or math or higher classes such as English and science. And I realized that I am extremely organized and I can power through assignments fairly quickly, which made me feel like I wasn't a failure because I found an environment that allowed me to succeed based on my needs. And so I remember some classes I completed in a week. I mean, I would just sit down and go through all the worksheets and read the chapters, but it was finally in my hands because a regular high school, as much as it's a wonderful experience for some, it doesn't allow you to catch up and it doesn't allow you to veer away from the setup, right? So adult school gave me that opportunity and I greatly enjoyed it. I was very successful in it and it allowed me to graduate. And because of that, I find that my story is a little different. Not only do I work in it, but I myself attended classes that enabled me to be successful. I cannot imagine where I'd be had I not had adult education. And I say that wholeheartedly because, I find it funny when I talk to people these days, friends, family, they're shocked that I wasn't going to graduate on time or that I was, that I ended up actually dropping out and then making up credits full time through the adult school program because no one remembers that part, which could have been very different. And, it could have been that I didn't graduate and didn't get anywhere. And then my story would not have been what it is today. So not only am I grateful for the employment opportunity and working with so many students, I'm grateful that I had the opportunity as a student myself. And of course, advocating for a program that has guided me as a student and as an educator is hands down the most important work I'll ever do.
That is that is incredible. Like I can feel like your whole heart is in this. It has impacted everything about your life, and you've chosen to remain in this field. I love one thing that you mentioned in there, especially when you were talking about how, a high school, traditional high school works for some people, but what you got was what you needed.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something really special about adult education is the focus on student needs. Yes, we need
Exactly.
yes, we need grant funding. Like, yes, we need those things, but the day to day, the focus is really on helping the people who walk through our doors or enter our Zoom rooms, whatever it may be.
Exactly. It's all for students. We all work, even the advocacy work that we do is for students.
Mhm. And I know you've been vocal about your story and have really like I see you on social media posting about the wonderful things that are happening as well. Um, and I'm curious because when I signed up for the SAFE fellowship, I wasn't really sure what I was getting into. Like I had that
Absolutely.
moment after I submitted it, I thought I'm never going to get it. And then when I got it, I thought, why? Like why me? Is what did I get myself into? What were you expecting to get out of that fellowship? Or what were you hoping to get out of it?
I honestly thought that being part of COABE is that I would have a legitimate reason and an opportunity to reach out to legislators. So I didn't think about the details or how it would be done and who they were, right? Because I had no visual of like who came, first and who we would reach out to and how we would even identify the area, for example, where I live or where where my school is, or that there would be different legislators for both areas, even though they're fairly close together. So all of this, I had no clue. But I realized that I was finally going to have the power, in a sense, to reach out to individuals and it was going to be okay. And they kind of would have to or would want to talk to me because I was part of this. So I think it just made me feel like I was finally going to do something else, like in addition to what I'm, what already supporting education just on the school level, but that I would just have the ability to do something more and that those individuals would speak to me, right? Because if you, as a constituent, send an email to someone, it's not that they won't respond, they often will, but what they're looking to do then is assist you in maybe a personal problem,
Mhm.
right? Or a community issue that you're bringing up, but not so much education specifically because you are usually reaching out as an individual and not a representative of something. So I think that is what I imagined it would be. And it was that, but it was way more than that.
Yeah, you're right. That's how I felt about it too, because I thought I was an advocate already because I was reaching out, emailing my state legislators once in a while, just voicing my opinion. But I was not expecting to learn about how a good advocacy work should look like. And I didn't know anything about it until I joined the SAFE. By the way, we are saying SAFE. SAFE, does everybody know what SAFE is? Erin, do you want to spell it out for us?
Sure, SAFE. SAAEF, the State Advocate for Adult Education Fellowship, which comes around once a year, welcomes in a new cohort of usually one, sometimes two advocates from each state. And because COABE is the Coalition on Adult Basic Education, that's really what the fellowship is it's like a coalition of advocates who are learning about advocacy, who are engaging in advocacy. And the big thing I got from it too was that community to be able to see what others are doing and just having a place to shout out like, "Hey, I did this and it was scary and it went awesome," or, "Hey, I did this, it was scary and I don't think it went so great." Let's
I know.
brainstorm. And it's a fantastic program. It usually opens like at the end of December, and then, yeah, applications end sometime in January.
Yeah. And to be honest, I found a safe place of going and learning, asking your questions, finding a community of support. And yes, Erin mentioned the community that you find as friends. We work together, we learn from one another for 1 year. So that brings you together. And the interesting part for me was that we were from different parts of the states, but when we went to the COAPE conference, we could see how these people look like in real life. And it was very interesting to meet someone in real life for the first time and feel like they've been your friend forever
Mhm.
because you worked together for so long. Um, and also, the interesting part for me was the part that I learned what's happening in other states. Because the entire time, even if I want, if I even if I had the opportunity to go and get news from my state, it was about my state, what's happening in my state. I would hear something at the national level, but not specifically in each other state. That was interesting to me, and that was very new to me, and how other states are localizing and working on their advocacy work, and then learning from them and just bringing it to my own state, and improving our advocacy work that way. That was another thing that I learned. How about you, Karina? What was the interesting part for you?
I think, first of all, realizing that California is so big that everything is a little more difficult with us.
Mhm.
What
I
part of
will
California, sorry to interrupt you, what part of California are you at?
I'm in Southern California, so
Okay.
not too far from Hollywood. Um, but we are a big state, and it is a lot more difficult to reach our mayor or our governor. And I was finding that there, others in our cohort were able to get so much more done because they're smaller, it's more intimate, it's easier to get in touch with someone, but just made me work a little harder. And and even if we didn't do the exact same thing other states did, we did enough to where we brought attention to adult education. And we also have a new superintendent who is extremely supportive of adult education. So it's just a wonderful time for us to continue to promote it to everyone, because we are, the one thing a lot of people are surprised to hear is that we are free, 100% free. We used to charge a fee for our career training classes and a fee for academic classes for adults, but there's none of that now. So worst case scenario, you're buying your tools or your supplies and that's it. So, with the availability of so many private schools, it's wonderful to continue to get attention, even if it's little by little, for
Mhm.
adult education so that everyone can benefit from it.
Absolutely. And I I love how you also mentioned gain attention. So advocacy isn't just getting bills passed, right? It's about bringing that attention to adult
Raising
education.
awareness.
And I know you've posted about some interesting things that you've been part of to help raise awareness. Could you give us an example?
Wow. There are so many connections we've made. So I think at one point I realized that rather than reaching out to legislators and having an ask per se, what I started doing is just inviting them to visit our campus, and that led to them seeing what we do. It, in one instance, turned into our students getting certificates from the local assemblyman when they graduated from, for example, the pre-apprenticeship program that is fairly new but wonderful in supporting students in joining a trade union. So not only do they graduate with a certificate, they get a certificate from a legislator, which is huge for our students. With that, we connected with local community organizations. So in addition to students attending our program for free, all of a sudden, if they qualified with this nonprofit partner, they were able to get a weekly stipend for food, for gas. Their steel toe boots were paid for. They got tools purchased for them. I mean, it was eye-opening in that the every little step allowed for huge change.
Wow.
I also nominated Senator Dianne Feinstein, and she got an award for her support of adult education, which again, we reached out and invited her to receive it at our campus. And while she couldn't make it, her field representative was. And so again, that's not only showing us the support that we have, but it's also showing our students, our community, and showing thanks to those that support us. So it's almost been like one thing pulls at another and everything connects in the most beautiful way. And that ultimately supports the opportunities we offer our students.
Exactly. This is so amazing and so inspiring to hear all of that. Thank you for all your good work. And I know it takes some time to plan and organize these things, but it benefits the whole community. And it's not just one way. You just pick fruits from each branch and then you have a fruit basket. It's
Absolutely.
amazing. It's amazing, the work that you've done. So now this is the beginning of 2023. I wonder what advocacy goal you have for this year.
So I'm hoping to continue to mentor the next group. And, I think that each cohort develops further and gains additional skills. And we can pass that knowledge on to the next person so that it's a little easier for them, maybe, and they can focus on developing additional skills and ways to promote our programs. So I hope to do that.
That's amazing. Thank you. Yes, this is January and it's all around that time to bring in the new cohort 3.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to take a short break, but Karina, Sarah, and I will be back after our break.
Okay.
And to also join us will be current student Brandy Martinez. Welcome back to the Adult Ed Advocast. I'm Erin Vabornik.
And I'm Sarah Hagigi.
And you met before the break Karina Ravkina-Matousov. And we are going to be joined by Brandy Martinez. So Brandy, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Hi, Brandy. Thank you for being here. Great to have you here, and we would love to hear from you. Could you please tell us more about yourself and tell us how you got involved into adult education programs?
Absolutely. So I am a current student at West Valley Occupational Center, where I am trying to obtain my cosmetology license. I am almost close to finishing right now. I should be finished in March, returning in June for graduation. So I'm super excited for that. A little bit about myself is, everyone's story is different. But I came about North Valley through somebody who recommended it to me. And they told me, you should definitely try it out. It's something that's gonna, it looks like something that you're going to be interested in, that you may go far in. I know that you love this type of field. They offer a program for it. Why not? Right now, they are offering free tuition. So it's not going to be anything out of your pocket besides the tools that you have to invest in. So just go try it, And I said, okay. So I came, I enrolled, and I always tell this to everybody because it's so funny, because I initially was like, I'm just going to come in and try this program, open-minded, but, still a little, I don't know what I really want to get from this whole, or what I am going to get. And so as soon as I came in through the door and I was greeted by amazing staff, my teachers here in the cosmetology program, and I've had tremendous support through it all, I have found to love this type of work and just educating myself and in the field, and just really practicing and making myself better, and, really obtaining the skill necessary so that when I do leave here, I can, just really accomplish my career and a lot of success. And, it's funny because I while I was in high school, um I had gotten pregnant young, and I obviously wasn't able to finish school traditionally like everybody else was, which kind of left me in a little bit of a pit because I still needed my high school diploma in order to, get a job or to further my education. Um, but I couldn't go to my regular high school no more. So I was grateful enough to find a program through another sister school from West Valley. And I joined a program and I was able to obtain not only my high school diploma, but my GED both through this program. And I was able to do it all in a schedule that was best for me that fit my whatever was going on in my life at the time. Um, as well as it let me go at my own pace. So there was no limitation for me. If I wanted to speed through it and get through it faster, I could have. And or if I needed more time, it was okay. I had a certain amount of time, but I had the help there. And so with that, I was able to graduate sooner than I anticipated. I graduated early. And it's crazy because full circle, here I am now, back in adult ed and pursuing my career, the education for my career.
That's so amazing. So correct me if I'm right. So you probably studied in a program called Integrated Basic Education and Skills Training, IBEST for sure, which is a program that while you're getting your high school equivalency, you're also taking some college credit at the same time, and you graduate from your high school and get a certificate from college as well, right?
It's actually very similar. So it was once called the AWAC program. I know it's a new name for the program, but instead of simultaneously obtaining the high school diploma and the college prep career, whatever. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. It's obtaining both a high school diploma, but using the GED as equivalents to some of the credits, to replace some of
Okay.
the credits inside of the requirements for the high school diploma.
Oh,
Great. Okay,
nice.
good. Wonderful. Thank you. And congratulations in advance for your
Thank you so
graduation.
much.
Yes. What are you going to do in between March when you get that, when you're done with classes and then, waiting for that graduation day?
I'm going to be prepping. Right now, we already are prepping, studying, but I'm going to be really crunch time for me to study so that I can go take my state board license. And I'm really excited for that. Thereon, I am currently looking to become an assistant to somebody within the salon so that I could shadow somebody so that I also get, a lot of experience and skills through that way as well. So that when I am officially licensed, I can have my own chair in a salon and just really just up my career and get it going.
That's awesome. Is that
Beautiful, beautiful.
making those connections, helping you get ready for the boards, helping to connect you with salons? Is that something your program and your teachers help you with as well?
Absolutely. They are wonderful here, honestly. I really appreciate every single one of the teachers here. They really go above and beyond. They make sure that we are really getting the practice that we need necessary to perform every service. Whatever it is that's coming in, something maybe new, something old, but to cover it all so that we're really prepared, as well as really just we spend about more than an hour every day in class, doing actual book work with each other so that it's actually being retained versus, some people don't retain a lot of information on their own. As well as, after when we step out of here, we do have our own lives. We have work and some people have kids and, it's hard to really get that study time in. As well as, when you do need help and if there's extra resources, you can always come to one of the teachers. I'm countless times I've come and I've asked for help on different things, different resources. They provide me the whatever it is I need, or if they can't give it to me, they will always guide me to somebody who I can speak to, and they'll go and tell me like, just go ask them and see what they can offer you. I'm really excited because the staff here, I did speak about how I am looking really to start working, even if it's volunteer work, or how I said I wanted to shadow somebody, I'm fine with that. But to really get my foot in the door and really get that hands-on real experience in the field. And my teacher, one of my teachers here, she's so great. She's definitely helped me out. She's asked me to get my resume ready. We'll start looking around. Miss Karina here gave me so much good advice on how to research who I would love to shadow. I've sat with her and I've met with her, and she spoke to me about, different techniques, about how to look into who it is that I want to shadow. What are some of the things that I do want to look into doing and providing? What are the services that I do want to provide? And so for that, I'm super grateful, because it did give me just a head start on, okay, that question of where do I start? Now I know where I'm starting.
This is so great. Thank you so much, Brandy, for sharing this.
Absolutely.
And this is so valuable, especially because stories like you, success stories like you, inspire so many people. You inspire instructors that are teachers and going into classes every day. Teaching is not an easy job, but when they hear that students really benefit from their work, that inspires them, and that tiredness that they take home every day, that goes away immediately when they hear success stories like that. And there are so many other people that they not have it easy in life, and
Right.
they have struggles, and they don't know where to start. And sometimes they think that this happens only to them. They are the only ones suffering. They are the only one
Absolutely.
going through this. Hearing some stories like your story when you share, that inspire those students to hear, oh, she had a similar situation as me, so she found a way, and look at her, there were resources available, and she took advantage of all those resources, and she
Absolutely.
had connections, she found connections. Let me follow her pathway, and they become successful too. This is very important both ways, for instructors
Absolutely.
to know what areas they need to focus on, and also for students to just keep it going, persist in this process, and trust the process and go forward. And you also
Absolutely.
inspire a lot of state legislators when they hear all these stories, because then they know about the importance of these adult ed programs, that there are there to provide support, all these wraparound services that you were
Right.
mentioning. They provide these, and they need to get funded to provide more of these services to more people. Have you done any advocacy work in the meantime?
Actually, I have not. I am new to this. Aside from this podcast this morning, I was in a meeting with Miss Karina, where we met, with Senator Dianne Feinstein's first rep. He came in and he heard my story, and it was a really, really, really awesome experience to be able to be in front of somebody who works and inside of such an important role. Not only so important, but he genuinely took time and listened to me and showed true concern and heard my story, and it took time to hear everyone around the room and what every program and what this whole campus has to offer. And that itself was so genuine, because these senators and legislators, they have bigger problems and they have other things going on, and they go around everywhere and they hear everywhere and anything, but to be fully paid attention to or be invested into, it's completely different, where you feel you actually are being heard versus him just coming in here and rushing out. But yes, it was absolutely really a really, really awesome experience. And I'm really grateful for Karina for allowing me to be a part of that and a part of here today as well.
And I just have to add that Brandy was pulled into the meeting last minute. We actually had a graduate lined up, but she was at a job and she couldn't get out to be there. And so we were looking for someone that had attended academic classes and was in a career training program. And so, of course, we came into the class and got Brandy. But so we didn't have a chance to prep her. This was the best part. And when she spoke, she had so much to say that even the principal and I were looking at each other like, how does she know all this? I kid you not. And you saw the field representative, he turned and he was listening to every word she was saying, and he had questions, and And when we said, we told him the story that we had just pulled her this morning, and he goes, she wasn't prepped. And I said, this is what students say about the program. Maybe not everybody, but here's a perfect example of someone that went through the programs we offered. She went through AWAC that turned into ACT later, which is a program that allowed youth to almost follow like a home study program, that if they need attention from the instructor, they can be in class daily. But if they want to work independently at home, they can, which allows them to also work or take care of their children. And then to go on, get her GED, which, by the way, I wanted to briefly mention that what that program allows you to do is to take the GED and show that to demonstrate that you have the knowledge of the high school diploma to a certain degree, and then you take additional classes to satisfy the rest. And so it allows you to get a full high school diploma, but faster. And so Brandy passed that test and then completed the classes and then came back to us for career training. So she's seen the whole process, and the things she said about our school and how she's felt supported in our sister school as well has been incredible. So there's no training needed. She knows what she's doing.
She's a natural born advocate.
Absolutely.
That goes on the resume right there.
That is true. So sorry, Erin, I'm talking too much, asking so many questions, but this was very interesting. And thank you so much, Karina, for sharing that. One thing that I was thinking about is that you mentioned that you brought Brandy last minute. So, and this is something that if you ask any of the adult ed students, they would say something similar to this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very important for all instructors and administrators to know, because sometimes when we want to do the advocacy work, we are thinking who we should bring in to the meetings. And that's very important to see, okay, all these students, they have a voice and they all would testify to the work of adult education. And if you could just talk about how you look at your students and pick who has that leadership to go through an advocacy training or become an advocate.
I think, is that for Erin?
That's for you, Karina.
Oh, for me. Oh,
yeah.
Well, because I thought, Erin's is working on the student.
Yeah, that was
advocate.
tricky.
So
I will ask Erin's opinion later.
So I usually will look for someone that isn't too shy, that they're not scared to speak up. But when Brandy came in, she came along with 2 sidekicks. She brought 2 additional students, and we said, hey, it's great. The more, the merrier. But they quickly found out what we were going to be doing and they ran away. So she was left on her own. So we could say that she wasn't nervous, but she probably was. Like all of us often are when we have to speak up and we don't know who we're going to be talking to or how they're going to react to what we say. And so I think there's something to be said for that. So maybe, we do try to give some idea of what we're going to be doing, and we look for someone that wants to talk about their story. But sometimes it's, the person you least expect to be able to share everything. Given the right opportunity, they will. And not to say that Brandy is, not shy or the opposite. It's just the fact that given the opportunity, she realized she was being listened to. And in an intimate sort of setting, because we were in a conference room, we did have under 20 people. So we sat at a round table and we just talked. And I think maybe the environment also does something, but we look for individuals that have a story. Absolutely. And, and one we know of, because if we don't know about it, we're not going to know who to involve. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, Brandy was there that morning and we learned so much about her, and it has been incredible.
Yeah. I love what you said there about everybody wants to be heard. And that's such an important part of advocacy, because it doesn't, when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter like how extroverted you are. That might make it easier. I'm an introvert. Like I get really scared before talking to people, like and I'm a teacher. So like walking into class the first night, like I have to, the whole drive there, like I'm visualizing, what am I going to say? Like, are they going to like me? But being able to just stand in front of somebody who can make a difference and use your voice and be heard is huge. So,
Right.
Mandy, like, what did you feel like right before that meeting? And then
Um,
how did you feel right after?
so it was pretty crazy how it worked out. I just came in for class like I always do. And we had, one of the teachers come in and she just simply asked, "Hey, has anybody ever taken classes besides, Cosmo or besides your career prep classes? Has anybody else taken classes?" And I was like, "Oh, I have." So I raised my hand. She goes, "Oh, do you mind coming, to a meeting we're going to have in a little while? And kind of just speak on your experience." So I was like, "Sure." So I was willing and I was like, okay, I'll just go share, how I've came here and I've taken these classes and how it has been for me. So I didn't expect anything. So I went, and how Miss Karina said, I had two other friends with me from the class. I was like, come, you guys could share your experience about, the class, it may help. So we went, and then we ended up finding out what the meeting was as they were talking amongst each other. And they're like, yes, there's going to be a rep coming from the senator's office, and we're going to be talking to him. And I froze. I honestly did freeze. I was like, oh my God. And my friends were like, no, we're going to go back to class. So they left. But in me, I was like, well, I'm nervous. I said it, and I was like, I'm nervous, but I want them to also, they asked me for my experience. So I'm going to give my experience no matter how nervous I am. So that's pretty much what the mindset was for me. And then we went straight into the meeting. The rep showed up and we introduced ourselves. We went and we just kind of discussed, bounced back and forth between topics between the table. And at that point, because I was so comfortable speaking, because how Miss Green said, I did feel heard. His whole body language, his whole full attention, he turned towards me. He was all ears. He was asking questions, which told me that he was actually listening to what was being said. Um, it made me feel a lot comfortable enough to just really speak the honest truth about my experience here. And it wasn't to sell an idea or anything. It was just genuine, and it was just how I felt, and whatever it was that, the opportunity that I was given through these multiple programs from the school. So I was really nervous. I was, but I was comfortable because it was my story and it was my experience that I was sharing. And being heard was great because also I didn't know who was in that room. I didn't know who was the titles of anybody in the circle that I was amongst. So in my mind, I was like, well, I'm going to share my story, my experience to everyone in this, like as if we're all equal, because I don't know who's who. And I may be helping somebody else out. Maybe somebody is in here that needs to hear my story. I think it's very important to hear the student side, whether it be mine or any other students. I feel every student's story should be heard because we get a better aspect into a student's everyday life or everyday struggles, and we know how to get into it and attack whatever it is to help them succeed to their best abilities. Being able to provide resources. How do we know what resources or what help to provide a student without actually hearing from the student what is needed? So that's kind of where I was in the mind of feeling so open, and wow, he's paying attention to me. Everybody's paying attention to me. Let me share it because this too can help somebody, like could have helped me maybe when I first started. So that's just pretty much my mindset going into that whole meeting.
That that's wonderful. It's great to share that, even though your friends got nervous and they went back to class, that it's almost like your mindset was like, if not me, then who?
Right. And it was,
Right? Like, so how did you feel after that meeting? Like,
I
were the
felt,
nerves gone? Were you
yeah, midway, as soon as I started talking and I started talking about my experience, the nerves were gone. I was fine, and I went into flow, and every question that got asked I answered to the best of my ability. And I loved every second of it. And so when I walked out of that whole meeting, I felt so accomplished. I felt so great. I felt like, wow, somebody heard me. Who knows who it's going to help next? I hope it helps somebody next. And I hope that this rep coming in, he really, like, really listens to the value that he really got from hearing everybody in that room. And he goes back to the senator's office and he shares his experience, and may it be a great experience so that it sheds light on adult education. That way we get more funding or more resources, and we get more support always round, because it's very important. Adult school is very important. That's what I did share in the meeting. Because like how I said in the beginning of this meeting, everyone's story is different. You don't know who or what or when. And so with that being, not everybody gets to go the traditional way of a regular high school or a 2-year college, 4-year college. Courses change, paths change, life happens. And being able to have that second chance, almost like, and being able to still pursue a career, or still being able to become somebody, or, doing anything that you want, obtaining any type of skill or training, um, is satisfying, because for a second you could feel left in the dark. Well, I didn't finish traditionally, so what next? Or there's nothing else for me. Some people may feel like there's nothing else for me, and that's how I felt at one point. I didn't finish traditional high school, so now I'm not going to get a job. What is there for me? And it took me personally having to want that hunger and that drive instilled to say, hey, no, I'm not going to be another statistic, and I'm not going to be another dropout. I'm going to find a way. And I found a way.
This is beautiful. Thank you.
I just want to echo what Sarah said. Brandy, thank you so much for sharing your story, because it is what it's what teachers need to hear, what legislators need to hear, but especially what students or not yet students need to hear. That person who's opened up that GED book that they checked out from the library and is just feeling like, I can't do this. And they just keep closing it. That these programs offer so much more than just teaching the material, right?
Absolutely.
It's a community. It's got those wraparound services. Um,
Absolutely. And how much you invest into the people around you, and how much you connect well with the people around you, really will show how much you really get out of this. Because although we're here for just our career training or to further our education, we actually build lifelong relationships with people here on campus. And the support goes here, as far as I know, goes way beyond just being here as a student.
This
I
is
know
very
I've heard countless times where students come back, and they still come and ask for help, or still receive guidance, and or come back and give back to our community. But I really, really appreciate you guys hearing me today and allowing me to be here on this podcast. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you
Yes,
so
thank you.
much.
you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and story.
Yes. And Karina, thank you as well. And I know we're probably going to have listeners who want to follow you on social media. So we will share all of whatever information you want, social media information, we can share those in the show notes. So those will be
Absolutely.
listed under the YouTube video. They'll be everywhere that podcasts can be found if people want to hear more of your story or more of what you have to say. Um, but before we go, I'd like to give each one of you a chance to just say one last thing to our national and maybe international podcast audience. So, Karina, I'll let you go first.
Wow.
Your
Well,
parting words.
thank you. I think that we just all need to realize the opportunities that are available to us, and not only take advantage of them, but also share with others, because word of mouth is the number one way to share any kind of information. And that's the way we actually get students, word of mouth. So spread the word, tell everyone about your educational experience, and let them have an opportunity at a free education as well.
Thank you, Karina.
Thank you.
And Brandy.
I just want to share this pretty much jumping off of the same statement as Karina. I think it's very important for, the information to be spread out, but also to be asked for, because there's so much around us. It's very important to never be too afraid to ask for help and just to come out, because there are a lot of programs, a lot of information, a lot of things that don't even are very little or no cost at all, that can make a major difference in somebody's future. So it's very important to reach out.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Karina. Thank you,
Thank you.
Brandy. We were so honored to have you join us today. So,
And
Sarah,
thanks to our listeners. Thank you for being with us and Happy New Year again. I hope you have a great start to your year.